Hello, and welcome to the Ilene Silverman Show. I'm your host, Ilene, and on this week's program, our guest, Lizzie Jenkins, Executive Director of the Real Rosewood Foundation, shares her family's personal history of the 1923 Rosewood tragedy and her dedication to remembrance of Rosewood descendants. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. I'm honored to introduce my guest, Lizzie Polly Robinson Brown Jenkins, Executive Director of the Real Rosewood Foundation. And Lizzie, it is wonderful to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, it seems we've talked for years about having you on the Ilene Silverman Show. And what better time than now, after you have just celebrated January 1st, yes, 2020, the 97th anniversary of the tragedy of Rosewood.
Yes.
And this is your life's mission, to tell people about it.
Yes, it is.
And it is a very worthy mission, and we're happy to share it. And still, I know there are people that are saying Rosewood. I've heard something about that. So set the stage, kind of give a little synopsis of the tragedy of Rosewood, Florida.
Rosewood, Florida is in Levy County, which is approximately 50 miles from Gainesville. I live in Archer, approximately 40 miles from Archer, and it's 9 miles west of Cedar Key, or is it east of Cedar Key. However, in 1915, my mom's sister, my aunt, was a teacher there. Although her home was Archer, but she taught school in Rosewood from 1915 to 1921 and survived the tragedy, and told my mom about her experiences. And Mom told me at age 5 about the experiences that her sister had encountered. And it was so depressing to my mom. She said, and you know, sister, my mom called her sister. She said, right, you know, sister suffered the agony of defeat. And it's history. And it wasn't good history, it was bad history. And I want you to keep it alive. I want you to keep her name alive in this history and tell everybody about how she suffered. And for 28 years, I have done exactly that. I saw the movie because when Rosewood happened in 1923, my mother was single, still living at home with her parents. Okay. And when her sister was brought there, by an uncle after she exited the train in Archer. And
fleeing Rosewood.
Fleeing Rosewood.
Point, right.
Exactly. And she didn't tell anybody about the story but my mother, who was her close sister. She wouldn't tell her parents, but she talked to my mom. And Mom talked to us, her children. As I said, in 1943, I was age 5. And the youngest, my sister was the oldest, 11, 9, and 7, and I was 5. They were not interested. For some reason, the story attached itself to me.
It was, you became connected.
Exactly.
Yes. And just to tell us a little more about yourself, Lizzie, you've been an educator. Just give us a little brief
Well, I taught
backstory.
School in Alachua County for 33 years until my mom needed me at home. So I retired. One day I left out of my class, met my principal in the hall and said, today's my last day. It was in June. She said, what? I said, yes. That is the way it happened. My mom was ill 6 months.
And
my mother
you were
lived,
her caregiver.
I was her caregiver. My mom lived 3 years. We went everywhere she ever wanted to go. and we talked and we had fun. But she forever emphasized, keep the history alive.
Keep it going.
Keep it
Right.
going. Research. She saw the movie too. As I said, she was 20 when it happened. She knew everything. So when the movie was shown in 1997, I took her
Okay.
to see it. And I asked her, I said, Mom, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you rate it?
Right.
She gave
Is
it a 7.
Okay.
She
Well,
said,
all
but the
right.
most important thing, it let people know it happened, and it let people
Exactly.
know that people will lie on people. And I took it from there.
That was another turning point.
That was another turning point.
Yes, to try to make sure the word was being spread, that people would know. And we're going to take a quick break, but you're quite respected as a storyteller, and
Okay.
it is a wonderful skill that you possess. So when we come back, we're going to listen a little more to the story of Rosewood.
Okay.
Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the tragedy at Rosewood with Lizzie Jenkins. And Lizzie, as your mother said, it's up to you to go forth and tell the story. So help us understand the circumstances that are part of the Rosewood tragedy.
Okay, she wanted me to tell the story, and she also emphasized you must research, document, authenticate, and never attack anyone for what happened, because the history is our history. You didn't create it, Ilene, and I didn't create it, but
Right.
it's history. And all history is not good. Okay, it's ugly.
Right.
But we can't change it. History is who we are. Okay, whether we like it or not, it's who we are.
And it's what we can learn from.
And we can learn from it so that it will not repeat itself.
That is
Okay.
the goal, the hope.
That is the hope. And also to the racial divide, we hope to close the gap. But Rosewood happened, as I said, in 1923 because a lady living in Sumner, approximately 3 miles from Rosewood, was having an affair with a white gentleman, a white man. And she was married, she was tired, and she wanted to end the relationship. However, he did not want to. So a fight ensued. At the end of the fight, or the end of the day, the morning, she was bruised. And her husband was a foreman at the sawmill in Sumner. And every morning he would report to work to fire the mills and then return home at 6 a.m. for breakfast. So on this particular day, when he returned home for breakfast, of course he wanted to know what happened to her.
Right.
And she said, a black man did it. And we know that she did not use the term black.
No.
Okay.
You're just being polite to not
Yes.
say what she said.
Exactly. And he was very upset. He called in the guys that worked with him at the Sumner Sawmill on December 31, 1922, here in Gainesville, Florida.
Yes.
They had convened a KKK rally downtown Gainesville. So they telegraphed from Sumner, Levy County, Rosewood, the law officers or department here in Gainesville, and say, hey, you all need to come to Sumner, Rosewood.
Right.
We need help. There's a man assaulted my wife or raped my wife, and we need to catch him. Which
It's hard to even get the scene in your mind. Go on. I see it.
Yes, and the reason they came to Rosewood is because James Taylor and the law officers in town, not the sheriff, was not involved.
Right.
When he brought in the dogs, because after the fight, the young man who she was having the affair with had to get back home to
Right.
Gulf Hammock. The only way he could get, the quickest way he could get to from Sumner to Gulf Hammock was to go through Rosewood. And he knew people in Rosewood, black people.
Right.
And the man accused of the attack, of the assault, was my uncle, because that's exactly where he went, to his house.
Because he knew him.
He knew him because they were both Masonics, Masons.
Oh.
And the dogs led him straight to the house. He did the Masonic knock at Aaron's house, Aaron Carrier.
Right.
My uncle.
So your uncle answered.
Answered.
Oh,
And
my
almost
gosh.
passed out when he saw this white face at the door early in the morning.
Right.
So of course he wanted to help because he knew the knock. He went back to the room, dressed. His wife, my aunt, said, "What's wrong?" He didn't tell her, put on his clothes quickly,
He
went
left.
outdoor, went to a neighbor's, his cousin, next door house, hitched up the wagon, and that's the term they used back then.
Right.
And took him to Gulf Hammock where he lived.
He saved him.
Saved him,
Right.
but they suffered, they paid
They
for
paid
it.
the price.
They paid
Yes.
the price. Mhm.
With pretty much 3 days of burning, lynching, killing.
Yes.
It was Sheriff Walker you give tribute to for
Yes.
making a substantial difference in what happened. And we're going to take another quick break and talk more about that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking with Lizzie Jenkins. And Lizzie, just tell me a little bit more about your aunt.
Okay, her name was Maholda Gussie Brown Carrier, named after her grandmother, and very smart at a very young age. At age 6, she left Archer, moved in with the family in Gainesville, went to school, graduated from college with credentials to teach in 1910.
Oh, yes, those.
Yes, and taught in Meredith and Rosewood. However,
She was quite an achiever.
she was quite an achiever, and I wanted to leave something in recognition of her and her
Right.
hard work. So what I did, I got in touch with people in Tallahassee at the governor's office and requested or suggested a historical marker in
Like it.
Rosewood. And of course that happened. And Governor Bush came down, dedicated the marker. I introduced him. And I also in 2000 went to the city of Archer and asked them to sponsor her. I think at that time it was called the Floridian Great 2000.
Yes.
And they said yes, unanimously. They paid for the plaque, and today it still hangs
Oh,
at the depot where she exited.
right, in her
disembarked.
escape.
And her escape from Rosewood is still there. She's also in 2 magazines, Florida State Magazine.
Well, it's a wonderful legacy and heritage, and the history, although dark and painful,
Yes.
has led you to create many positive. And one of the most wonderful of all is your Real Rosewood Foundation. Tell us about that foundation and all that it means.
It means everything to my mom. I know she's still listening and smiling. And I have a board now. Okay,
Oh, excellent. With some fine people on
with
it,
some
yes.
fine, hardworking, very supportive people. And we have a website, rosewoodflorida.com.
Yes.
And we are selling items because our goal is to build a museum. So we're selling items on the website so that we can build a museum by 2023.
The Centennial.
The
Yes.
Centennial.
And where will the museum be? The Cultural Center and Museum.
In Archer.
Okay.
Why Archer? Because we have 27 acres there, And those 27 acres is the property that the school teacher, Mahalda Gussie Brown Carrier, was born and grew up, and my mom. And we're going to put the museum there so that we can protect it. And it doesn't have to be in Rosewood. However, it's a Rosewood museum.
And you have so much family history, memorabilia. You yourself have written 3 books, poetry, working on a play about Rosewood. Tell us about the soil, because this is something recent.
Okay, this is our most recent project. We're going to sell this. In fact, we started selling it Saturday. And we're selling it for $19.23, and you know why?
Yes.
Because Rosewood happened in
1923.
Yes,
so it's
in 1923. And the soil, we are asking for you to return the soil on January 1, 2023, with your name on it. Give it back to us, and we're going to put it in the museum.
In the museum.
And you will be in history. For the rest of your life, we will remember you in the Rosewood history. And it's a hot item. And when I
like it.
Oh, and by the way, it has our logo, and it's real, genuine, authentic soil. History in a jar. 97 years. And it is from Rosewood.
That is a very impressive sense of history and a great idea. I mean, you've got mugs, you've got T-shirts, all ways to represent Rosewood. But the sense of history that it will keep alive is the most important of all, and it's an asset. It will be to Archer, who could dearly use a cultural center. And we still have more to cover, so we're going to take another quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're talking about the Real Rosewood Foundation with Executive Director Lizzie Jenkins. And Lizzie, there are many goals of the foundation, but one is to locate descendants, both black and white.
Yes.
Speak to that.
Well, when I first started speaking, and I think I've told you my speeches have always been positive, so one night I was speaking, and a young lady raised her hand and said, "Mrs. Jenkins, you know, this is my history too." And she was a white lady, a white young lady in college, getting her law degree. She said, "John Wright was my great-great uncle." And I said to her, "Don't leave before we talk." And she stayed to the end of the program. We exchanged contacts. We have been in touch with each other ever since. And when I speak, there are people that say, "Yes, my parents or my grandparents were involved. They were on that train, the escape train, and they helped the Rosewood descendants and survivors onto the train." And
right, which is, well, we don't see the train, but what we see in this wonderful painting behind us is your aunt running through the woods with children that she was bringing to the train to help them so they could escape from Rosewood.
Exactly.
And and I love what it says, Rosewood, hope prevails.
Exactly.
Your talk is always about the sense of history, but that there is hope, and understanding history gives us that hope.
Exactly. And because she was a teacher, what I wanted to do, or what the board decided to do, to leave or give scholarships. And we make certain 2 of the 5 scholarships we give a year, 2 are white and 3 blacks, and we make certain that 2 Levy County, 3 Alachua County.
Oh my goodness,
and the board agreed to do this, and some of my board members are
State Attorney Bill Servone, Representative Clovis Watson. You've got fine people on your board.
fine people, and they are very supportive.
Yes,
Yes.
they are working tirelessly to make this happen.
Exactly.
The Rosewood Multicultural Education Center, as you said, to be located in Archer. One of those goals, you've got the annual scholarship, which is a very wonderful thing. The scholarships, there's more than one, as you said, but then you do all these activities. You've been leading tours to Rosewood
Yes.
for years.
Yes, at no cost.
Right, I know.
At
Get
no
on the
cost.
bus and go out there
Exactly.
and talk about it.
Exactly. And I'm still meeting people. As of yesterday, I was coming from Alachua. I had met this lady about 30 years ago. And I said, I didn't know if she was still living. I stopped. She walked out. Lizzie Jenkins. Okay. She is a descendant. She is a descendant. She used to live in Trenton. But her people were in Rosewood.
We're in Rosewood, yes. And so, besides the markers, the tours, you have 3 books. Are you working on another?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And what about the play?
We are going to do the play again this year, and we are working on it. In fact, it's complete but not finished,
Okay.
if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Okay.
You have to
You got
fine tune it.
Exactly.
Yes. And then you, Lizzie, yourself, you are available, you make yourself available to talk to schools,
Yes.
all grades, all areas, churches, other houses of worship, wherever people are gathering,
Exactly.
you will come to tell the story of Rosewood.
Yes.
And
For
I think
history's sake.
that is, we're proud you've told the story of Rosewood here on our show, as a matter of fact.
I'm honored.
But thank you. And we just have a few more moments. Is there something else you would like to share?
What would I like to share? This is all about education, and I would like for the people to tell other people about history. When we celebrated Return to Rosewood on Rosewood Day, siblings, I thought they were a couple, but they were siblings, drove from Maryland because they had read it on Facebook to be
There.
a part of the ceremony. And they're really Africans. They are from Africa, but they
Understood,
moved to
right.
Maryland. They have connected and hooked up on Facebook. So many relatives. I enjoy reading. I can't read the African, but
Just the
language,
sense of-
just the sense
Right, of
connect-
history.
Yes.
Oh,
And
what a
it's so
connection.
many.
And you
Yes.
have an outstanding website, by the way.
Thank you.
And I congratulate you again on all you're doing, your commitment to preserving the history of Rosewood, and through that, greater understanding for all of us. Thank you for being such a wonderful part of this community and a good friend.
And thank you.
I appreciate
honored.
you. Thank you.
And I appreciate you.
And I'm so glad you tuned in, and I hope you'll join us next week. Take care.